pronounced Kiev or Kiev?
Well, actually, Kyiv. I don't know if you can spell it. Not Kiev, but Kyiv.
Kiev.
Kyiv, yes.
Okay, well, I know you better than any other investment in the world. Text Coast to 9898 for free, zero obligation info. How much you can work, though, these days. Nadya, thank you so much for giving us time tonight live from Kyiv on Coast to Coast AM.
Hi, thank you so much for having me in your show. Hi, America. I miss America very much. Well,
how often have you been here? Because your English is obviously excellent.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, as you already said, I was a performer and athlete. I started my sport career at the age of 3, and I did perform as a gymnast in an Olympic team for many years. Like this year, actually, I will celebrate 30 years of me as an athlete. So in sport, I'm already 30 years. So I've been living like in Chicago, in Tennessee, did perform in Las Vegas, New York for like several years. I don't know, I just was staying there. And when I got to America, I was like 2014, 15, 16, and I tried to, as I did perform there, and I earned money, and it already was war, already a Russian aggression war. So I was collecting money and buying some expensive equipment for our soldiers. So I already started like to mix my my career as a performer with my volunteer job. But now,
I love that. But so let me ask. So when you were working, I saw videos where it looked like you were doing a lot of corporate performances, right? Where you were appearing privately. And so can you do that while under the current conditions? What is work like for you today now in Ukraine?
well, it doesn't work in any way. There is only one way when I can perform what I do. I perform in front of soldiers. Because just kind of to support, to give them some different emotions. And for example, like again, years ago, for 8 years I was traveling to Donetsk area to usual citizens and soldiers, and I did perform there like in horrible conditions, because there is no stage, there is nothing there. You can perform on the ground, and you can step on bullets, on destroyed metal things, and close to you there is a tank or something standing, there is a fire above your head. But it's like in a movie, you know. Do you remember the movie where I don't remember, it was about James Brown? Yeah, James Brown. Do you remember? He was flying to support to American troops, and his plane was under attack with the fire and everything. It looks pretty much like this. So right, yeah.
And but is it even safe for you to perform for troops on the front lines now, or are you just better off staying in Kyiv for the time being?
Well, right now, they don't let me go to Donetsk area or to any other front lines, because every time when I go to the troops, to soldiers, they need to be sure that they can to protect me at least somehow, you know. And right now the situation is very unstable, and they're like, Nadia, we love you, we want you to come, but if you come right now, we don't want to mess with all this, because it's going to be too difficult to protect me, you know, in case of something. And in Kyiv, the war kind of, Russian troops not anymore around Kyiv, but every time we hear sirens and rockets flying, and like, you know, you having a coffee in the morning, you having I don't know, whiskey in the evening, then you waking up, then you go into your job, and we have, it's like sirens on the breakfast, sirens in the evening, sirens in the daytime, sirens when you're standing in driving your car, and like usual routine.
Yeah, you're used to sirens. let me ask you something which it has come up. So when the fighting started, even a couple of years ago, and I first started to hear from people saying that all these years, people in America have been mispronouncing the city, that it shouldn't be Kyiv, it should be Kyiv. How do you pronounce it?
Well, yes. Right now we are starting to make everything. Well, the difference is Kyiv. This is on Russian. Kyiv. This is Ukrainian. So we just it's different pronunciation because it's different languages. Well, so our original language is Ukrainian, but we also have Russian, because everything started, our history of Kyiv and Russia started from Kievskaya Rus. It was such a big kind of country, Kievskaya Rus, so everything started from there. And in Kievskaya Rus, like years, hundred years ago, it was two languages, Ukrainian, and some people did speak in Russian. So it goes from so far away. But Kyiv is like correct for you to spell.
Right. So, you know what's interesting about that, though, too, is this was years ago that I was doing research on why it was that in the United States, it was more commonly said the Ukraine as opposed to Ukraine. And what I learned was, and tell me if this is incorrect, is that the Ukraine refers to the borderlands for Russia, but every time we say essentially we're associating it with Russia as opposed to dropping the word the and just saying Ukraine, because then that's its own country as opposed to just a part of Russia. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're right. Just Ukraine. So
just Ukraine.
Yeah. See, a lot of things you learn. Yeah.
Even in Chicago, though, I would imagine, and there were many people, I knew Ukrainian Americans in Chicago, and I teach here at Kansas State University, and there are students from Ukraine here, and I think they still hear the Ukraine more often than they hear just Ukraine. So it may take a while before we drop that habit.
Oh, yeah, but see, it takes time. And then, like years ago, well, before 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea, we didn't like it was not like a big deal. Okay, you spell it like that. Okay, not a problem, because we didn't have any big problems with Russia. But it was our mistake. As we see, it was our mistake. We should to be very attentive with all, from little things like this, which means a lot, as we see right now, to any others.
It's very funny. I think that was so much great. So again, we're talking with Nadya Vasina. She is a gymnast and a performer and entertainer in Ukraine and around the world, but she is in Kyiv tonight while we're talking to her on Coast to Coast. So far, the phone line is doing just fine, and so we'll stay with this as long as we can, and we'll even take some calls for you. But how often do the phones not work in Ukraine?
Well, actually, I'm also a radio host, so I'm kind of your colleague.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me. That's very cool. What do you do? What show do you host?
Well, years ago I had a show with the politicians, with the government people. Now I do show about athletes, as I'm an athlete, and now we talking with the athletes who started to protect country with the soldiers together. And like for many years, I don't know, my dad created the first radio station in Ukraine. It was music radio with Americans. They came from New York, it was in 95 or 4, something like that. Like Soviet Union was done, like 1991, and step by step, Albert Klein, he came to Kyiv when met my dad, and they started to do the radio business here. So I'm not working on my dad's radio station because he didn't want me to work on his radio station. So
is it still on the air, your dad's radio station?
Yeah, we have a lot. He did a lot of radio stations and a big holding, like companies where you have different radio stations there. So I didn't work on his, so nobody would tell that dad gave a job to his daughter, so we're separate. Right. Yeah, and I work in the radio station, which is the government radio station. So during the war, even if I wanted to leave the country, of course I could, but I had to be here. I had to work as a journalist, and I was like, as the Russian troops were like almost on the border of Kyiv. Not almost, it wasn't the borders of Kyiv. I was with my troops and doing my radio show like how it could be, because as you asked me, it's not everywhere there is connection, but your friend Elon Musk, he gave Starlinks and to the soldiers.
Yes.
Yeah,
and the internet up.
Yeah, so if something like really wrong, we can use this. But basically in Kyiv, thanks God, everything is fine. And just like a week ago, one of the rockets destroyed the building next to my radio. I did the show and I left the radio, and like in an hour as the rocket crashed into the building. Our building is okay, just destroyed windows, doors, but one journalist passed away from another media. But like
he was killed.
It was the rocket, and the rocket crashed into the building. So it's horrible. The picture is horrible. Like again, everything what's going on is like in the movie, and I'm thinking about that I'm looking at all this. I'm staying in all this, and I'm thinking like Steven Spielberg will go out right now and say, "That's a wrap. Right. Thank you. Bye bye."
Yeah, but right. It's over.
Yeah, but Steven is not going out. I'm like, Steven Spielberg, where the hell are you? Come on. Oh my gosh.
Where are you? But now I looked at photos because I have been interested in teaching in Ukraine someday when they allow scholars back in to teach at, is it Tarashevenko University?
Taras Shevchenko, yes.
Yeah. And it too got hit by some rockets, from what I understand.
Oh, well, no, thanks God, no. But it was one of the rockets. I live pretty close to Taras Shevchenko University. It's a very, very good high-level university. And the rocket crashed next building from my home. And Shevchenko is from another side, so it was in between of us, kind of. Yes, but no, thanks God there, no. And what good, our government, we have a lot of, Kyiv and Ukraine is a very historical country. We have lots of historical buildings, monuments, amazing, interesting places to visit, and Russia destroyed a lot of that. I just can't talk in a normal way about those terrorists.
But how about food for you?
Well, again, what was very good, that in Kyiv, for example, if we're not talking about Mariupol or Kharkiv or something like that, in Kyiv it was plenty of food. And government did an amazing job, because there was a lot of people, like old people or people with the physical disabilities, and government did privately, they come to apartments of those people, brought food, and everything was good. So big markets like big stores like I don't know, Walmart, they were opened, they were working. Of course, not everything, because actually when Russian terrorists started to attack Kyiv, and they were like every day telling like, tomorrow we will get Kyiv, this is it, and it was really scary, because the city, biggest part of the people left the city, and the soldiers like said like it's better if you're not a volunteer like me, or you are scared, better leave the city, because no one knows what will be. No one knows. It was like in a horror movie.
Hang on just 1 second, because we want to come back to you. We have, like your father's radio station, I have to get a commercial break in here. So
yeah.
Stand by, and we will get more with Nadya Vasina, who we are speaking with. Also, a Ukrainian radio personality who has joined us tonight live on Coast to Coast AM. This is Punnett.